You are now listening to the Musically Made podcast. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Musically Made podcast featuring your host, VaNia. Today I have a special treat. I have a group of people for the first time. So I don't know if you guys recall one of my earlier episodes when I talked about high school and middle school programs. But today we're going to actually be talking with people from the MusicianShip. I'm going to let each and every one of these beautiful people introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Zoe, and I am an intern at the MusicianShip. I currently work within certain schools so that I can become a support aide. I also run the newsletters.
Hi everyone, my name is Keita Jones. I am the site coordinator for the MusicianShip at the Randall Highlands campus. I also connect by way as the music teacher here at Randall Highlands.
And hello everyone, Dr. Kendall Wilson, the Director of Education and Community Programs for the MusicianShip. Proud to be of support to the programming that's happening here at Randall Highlands, working with a dynamic team so that we're not only providing after school programming in music education for free, you heard it, for free, but that it's also an opportunity to support what can happen throughout the day in collaboration and partnership with the music teacher, who's our site coordinator, Ms. Jones, bringing in guest speakers that really give that life application component to what our young people are learning in the classroom. And that's how we got connected with me.
Yes, I reached out to the MusicianShip because I am very big on community service and volunteering, and just I am very passionate about young people getting into the arts, and that's how we got here. Dr. Wilson, can you explain a little bit more about what the MusicianShip does, a day-to-day of what the students would experience?
So let me begin by saying the MusicianShip is always looking for opportunities to partner with schools here in DCPS, whether that's your traditional public school, charter school. We're even open to exploring opportunities in our community and rec center, and that it is free to those that we know really would benefit, but otherwise aren't always the top communities where people are looking to provide these types of services. So with that being said, our after-school programming, we focus on band and drumline and vocal performance. We also are looking at how to prepare young people for skills that translate beyond just what they're learning in music, but how that can afford them opportunities outside in the real world. So there's many careers, many pathways in terms of either pursuing higher education, going to, maybe a historically Black college or university. I'm going to point that out. It's Black History Month, even though we know it's Black History every day. And then I'll just also say, or those that are really looking to become artists working immediately in the field. So the canvas is there for us to paint and create, to get back to the root of your question. And so possibilities are endless. We just need to hear the voices of young people as well as those that are already experienced working in the field.
Thank you so much. Now, Ms. Jones, can you tell me how the partnership with the MusicianShip at this site happened in the first place?
It started.
Ms. Jones.
Well, it started about 2016. I came in 2015 as a general vocal music teacher, and we had instruments that were just sitting, because the previous music teacher, she was more band oriented.
Right.
And so these instruments were sitting here, and we got a new admin to our school, and she pulled me in and said, I want a band. So I was like, how am I going to do this? What am I going to do? So I did some research, And honestly, I just did a Russian roulette and just kind of boom and landed on the musicianship. And that's pretty much how it got started. You know, bring timing in and connecting with them, bringing them in and explaining to them what our vision was for the school and, you know, what the expectations were for the program. Once they explained that it was after school and it was free, and we got the word out to our parents, it has been rolling ever since. So that's how we got started.
Very good, very good. Now, how did you get your internship?
So my dad works within Amazon Web Services, or Web Security rather, and him and his colleague, she actually referred me to the musicianship. So it was just like a once in a lifetime experience, and then I got connected to Dr. Wilson and we got to talking, and essentially we've been making up this internship this whole time, and it's allowed me opportunities to work with kids and learn more about music, and also learn more about just how it is to work within a team within a nonprofit organization.
Now, coming back to Dr. Wilson, what is your goal for the next, let's say, 3 to 6 months with the musicianship?
I think that's a great question because I'm coming in new. So I was hired in a position that was newly created and formed so that there would be someone with certain experiences, because I'm a former educator, elementary school educator, a former assistant principal, school leader, done a lot of turnaround work. This is not a bragging session, but to just say I've been able to see education in Atlanta, Philadelphia, Maryland, DC, Memphis. And so bringing those experiences and then working for a national nonprofit in the education sector with state education agency secretaries, I'll just say it really positioned me to see at all levels what's needed and not be a person coming in to lead an organization with a very distant viewpoint, but that I know what it takes at the implementation level and who it takes at the implementation level to really accomplish the goals. So the goal for the organization was, how do we strengthen our programming that we're currently offering? How do we increase just the sustainability as well as its reach and its impact? And so those are areas of focus with me. How does data drive, of course, what gains we want to see, but bringing to mind that data is not just numbers, data also reflects experience. And that would be the lived experiences of the students that we serve and the families in school. So looking beyond numbers to say, well, what does this imply is the need, and how does music help to fill that void? So whether that's theory, again, whether it's I'm going to know how to present and speak or perform in front of an audience, or I am learning just the discipline that comes with being an artist. That's in music, but for someone like me, that translates even to dance. What are the other variables and factors that have a cross connection to other art forms and disciplines? And then thinking about how also we're doing after school programming as musicianship, but we've acquired the Washington Youth Choir. So how do I utilize and bring more alignment, more cohesion between what we're doing K through 8, what we're able to offer with our high school students, the Washington Youth Choir, and creating a pipeline so that there is the performance opportunity. Young people get the exposure that they otherwise would not get. And then coming in for these next 3 to 6 months, you all are part of that vision. The organization has not had an intern before, so it was up to me to decide, okay, even though there's word around the organization that there's interest, really having to evaluate, is that something that we can take on as an organization? Right. And let me just say, I'm glad that we did. So to have an inaugural intern has really set the tone for how we develop and create a more robust program to bring others in, and to make sure that it's long lasting beyond just the work that we're doing today, but connecting with you to say, great, you have also learned, researched who we are. People like yourself, young adults, have an interest and have a passion. So how do I connect with you all? We have an alum network, but then we have those who just have a love for music or have been trained themselves. So how do you volunteer, whether that's an intern, whether it's a collaborator, or whether it's just an opportunity to get before some of our young people? So those would be the goals.
Yes.
Yes.
So have you ever had to perform like as a demonstration for students yourself?
I have. I'll say this much. So I grew up playing the piano, and I think I was pretty good. I thought I was pretty good. You know, of course, I'm going to say that, huh? And then pursued the clarinet in college. It was first chair, so very proud of all of that. But my heart at the core of me is dance. That's the passion. That's the purpose. For those that understand this language, that's the call. And so that's what I answer to. And yes, I have had semi-professional experiences that have allowed me to perform on stages and then be able to share that, yes, with young people. So I have taught myself as an after school and during the school day a dance instructor to help our young people. That would be both our young ladies, our young men, to understand, for example, ballet. Ballet has multiple benefits, and it is for everyone. So also seeing that there's a bigger, larger message that has also aligned with where my career is taking me when looking at equity, diversity, inclusion, those words do still live on. And it's just a matter of how they can manifest.
Yes, ma'am. Now, Ms. Jones, circling back to you, what are your goals with the partnership with MusicianShip?
I would like to see it to continue to grow.
Mm-hmm.
I want it to continue to go strong within our school community. I feel like it is. I want the kids to know that like this is a very important part of who they are and who they can be. It doesn't necessarily mean that they have to take the career path of being a musician, but to understand that music is therapy. It helps with thinking. It helps with being able to critically think critically. Mm-hmm. So I want them to see how that connects, as well as, along with in my classroom, I try to make sure that there's some connection even from my room into what they're learning about how they play, things of that nature. So that's my goal, is just for it to continue to grow and for it to continue to become a strong link between this program and what we have already here.
Zoe, what are your goals with MusicianShip? Like, how long are you trying to stay? Do you want to move up? Anything like that?
Right. So with the MusicianShip, our goal was to stay from September 29th to June 29th. So I'll stay here for the rest of the school year. And the goal is essentially working on, the biggest thing I was wanting to work on was my communication skills, and being part of this podcast is actually a real big step up for that, especially with like school sites and all of the events that I've attended and been able to speak in. That was one of my biggest goals, and I feel that it is developed to have the parents be able to see what their kids are doing in class, and then also be able to reach more of our DC community, so that kids know, oh, this is a really cool site. I wonder if I could get into it. And by that, we can reach kids and, spread the love of music.
So after June 29th, what's next?
Yes, so I'm actually going to college. So I'll be starting off my college endeavors to become a teacher, which is why I linked up with the MusicianShip. I've had a background in music. I've sung since I was a little girl, and grew up learning jazz in high school. So I came here with that background knowledge and ended up doing something more administrative. But again, it all comes in full circle, because these are all things that teachers will need to do in the classroom, in and out. So I see it as training, and also I'm able to, get mentorship from Miss Dr. Wilson and learning from the adults around me.
Is there any, I'm going to open it up to the floor. Is there any commentary that we want the listeners to know about anything? Yourself, the MusicianShip?
Well, I'll just conclude by saying it's been a joy to have our first inaugural intern. And as we stated, the internship was set up for 9 months. And so she has also, Zoe, been working on a manual that will help be a support to an individual or individuals who will come behind her. So I'll just simply say it's a call for those that are interested in an opportunity to reach out. And that way we can take, next steps to determine, is it something that should be further explored or not.
Just keep in mind the program is free.
Yes.
It's free. You know, a lot of people would have to pay to learn instruments. A lot of people would have to pay to get the quality of, music education when, you have this nonprofit program that's trying to put it out there so that these kids can be exposed and have an opportunity. So that is the huge part that I feel is very important that everyone should know.
And we're also always looking for instructors because there's a place for you. And so you've heard directly from Ms. Jones, who has been committed to the organization, and it's that type of commitment that will allow us to serve and reach more young people in more schools.
Well, I want to thank you all so much for being on the show today. Where can we find the MusicianShip?
Yes, you can email us directly, programs, programs, at themusicianship.org. You also may use for an email address, info, at themusicianship.org. And of course, we have social media, so I know you can find us there. So connect with us soon.
Yes. So thank you guys again so much. And everybody that's listening, you can find this podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Amazon Music. And don't forget to follow this podcast at Musically Made Podcast on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, and Musically Made P on X. And I will see you all next week.